It started with a video. Diddy's son, emotional and holding back tears, sat in front of a camera and told the world something he had kept inside for years. He spoke quietly, but every word hit hard. "I couldn't say no." He went on to describe how he was groomed and manipulated growing up in the spotlight, raised in an industry where power protected the powerful and children like him were left defenseless.
This time around, Diddy was brought in first. He was brought in about a couple minutes after 2 p.m. today, and we were all kind of waiting to see. We had heard mumblings that his mom might be in courtroom, that we were waiting for the children, but then nothing happened. But then, in another twist and turn, the children do walk in, but this time it was a lot smaller bunch than it was the last time. So last time you're having all of Diddy's children, except with the exception of Love, who is just a 2-year-old child, so she wasn't at court, but you had all of Diddy's children there except Love. But this time around, you just had Justin Combs and Christian Combs, meaning that there was no Quincy there today. Delilah and Jesse weren't there. Chance wasn't there, and the caretakers of his younger children who aren't of age just yet, they were not present inside the courtroom as well today.
The confession wasn't scripted. It wasn't polished. It was raw, real, and heartbreaking. He said he lived in fear, pressured to be around people in situations that made him uncomfortable, sometimes terrified, but still he couldn't walk away. Why? Because the person behind it all was his own father, Dizzy, the man everyone else saw as a mogul, a legend, a billionaire. Within hours of the video going online, it went viral. People all over the world started connecting the dots. Things they had heard about Diddy's wild parties, the rumors that had followed him for years, and the silence that always surrounded them. Now, one of the people who lived it was finally speaking up, and it wasn't just a personal confession. It became a trigger for a much larger conversation about grooming, about abuse, about how easy it is to ignore red flags when fame is involved. This was no longer just about Diddy. It was about the entire system, and this son's voice, tired, hurt, but brave, cracked that system wide open.
They're hunting this guy for major felonies. And Fiddy seems to be sitting on the sidelines cheering. Now that could be for one or two reasons. One is he knows things or suspects things about Mr. Combs. The other one is that he's just got a real perverse sense of competition.
One thing I know for sure is that when it comes to our culture, sometimes we cannibalize our own more than anybody else. And, we've seen the former president of the United States inspire the country to turn into Spider-Man and climb up the Capitol to overthrow the government in the middle of an election. But yet we haven't seen his mugshot or seen his kids handcuffed. I've known Justin for probably 15 years. Quincy, one of his sons, and his other sons. Those are really good kids. So to see them in handcuffs, to see them put on display as criminals, or to be put into the conversation that they somehow are ushering underage kids into the compound for their dad to have their way with them. Those aren't the kids that I know.
Inside the party scene, celebrities, secrets, and control. As more clips from Diddy's son's confession spread, people began paying closer attention to what he actually experienced. He talked about being at massive celebrity parties as a minor. These weren't just normal parties with music and drinks. He described scenes with alcohol everywhere, drugs out in the open, and adults doing things no kid should ever witness.
Sometimes you have to tell Diddy no.
Oh, man, bro.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Oh, man.
Sean Diddy Combs' alleged list of accomplishments to be revealed soon. The names will shock you, attorney says. Whoa.
I think he's gonna sing, if I got invited to the white party, I'd have gone.
Especially if you didn't know.
Of course, no one knew.
Right.
Knew.
If
And
you
then
don't know,
find
you're just
out.
a celebrity, and Jennifer Lopez is going to be there. Oh, Rick
That's what I'm
Ross is
saying.
going to be there. Everyone's going to be there.
And
that would be a cool place. I want to meet those people.
Fact.
Everyone. There's raids at Diddy's house.
This is how Joe Rogan reacts when his newsfeed gets flooded with P. Diddy news.
It's there. My news feed is dominated by it.
Yes.
Fox News, CNN, everyone. There's raids at Diddy's house.
Now, Diddy's in a tricky situation. I think it's over.
You think it's over?
I think it's over for him as like a figure in entertainment.
Right. But you think it's over as him as far as
jail?
he gets a cell right next to R. Kelly?
I don't think so. I don't think he gets locked
I think he
up.
skates.
I think he skates. Or he goes to
Really?
like Bali.
That's a move, huh?
He said that as a child, he was surrounded by topless women, men partying hard, and celebrities who acted like it was all completely normal. At the time, he didn't even realize how wrong it was, because no one around him said otherwise. It was like he was trapped inside a world that looked glamorous, but underneath it all was completely out of control. It wasn't just his word either. Other witnesses have come forward, people like Justin Levski, who also says he attended these parties when he was still a kid. His story lines up. He saw the same things, the same setups, the same silence. Even some bodyguards and staff members have reportedly said that secrecy was a top priority at these events. No cameras, no phones, no questions. People were warned to never talk about what they saw, and if someone broke the rules, they were out. The scary part? These weren't random parties. They were controlled environments, carefully designed so that the people in power stayed in power and anyone vulnerable stayed scared. For Diddy's son, these parties weren't just uncomfortable, they were traumatic. He was forced to grow up too fast, surrounded by things no child should be anywhere near. And now as he speaks out, we're all learning the truth behind the music, the lights, and the red carpets.
Do you know Sean Combs?
Puff Daddy?
Yeah.
P. Diddy, whatever you call himself these days. Yeah, go ahead.
It is one of the strangest interrogations we have ever covered here on Sidebar, and in light of a criminal indictment against music mogul Sean Diddy Combs, some people are seeing it in a whole new way. We're taking another look at the bizarre claims made by a man accused of shooting up one of former President Donald Trump's Florida hotels and his connection to Sean Combs. Welcome to Sidebar, presented by Law and Crime. I'm Jesse Weber. So as you know by now, rapper Sean Diddy Combs is facing sex trafficking and racketeering charges out in New York City, accused of using force and coercion to get people around him to facilitate and participate in so-called freak-offs, these group sex sessions that sometimes last for days at a time. The criminal indictment lays out the allegations, only names Combs as the defendant, although that could potentially change down the line. We may see more defendants. But since Combs has officially been charged and he's locked up behind bars, there have been a lot of videos that have been surfacing, particularly online. And one of those videos is the interrogation of a man named Jonathan Oddie. Now, this is a strange one, maybe some would say an odd one. See what I did right there? So I want you to stay with me. So we go back to 2018, and Jonathan Oddie allegedly went into the Trump National Doral Miami Hotel and Resort in the middle of the night and ostensibly went on a rampage. The state attorney's office says that Oddie fired shots in the lobby and toward the chandelier, then draped a giant American flag across the front desk. There was a shootout when Miami police got to the scene, and Oddie was shot in the leg and tried to hide, but he was taken into custody. Faces multiple charges: attempted murder, armed burglary, grand theft. Now you might be saying, well, why are you talking about him? What is his connection to Sean Combs? Well, once Oddie was released from the hospital, he did an interview with police where he repeatedly asked to speak with the FBI.
The grooming begins. How vulnerability was exploited. The grooming didn't start with a party, it started with small things, little moments that slowly blurred the lines between childhood and control. Diddy's son says he was groomed from a young age, encouraged to act older, to be around adults, to stay quiet even when things didn't feel right. He was raised in the public eye, surrounded by fame and influence. On the outside, it looked like a dream life, but on the inside, it was a setup. He said he was always expected to go along with whatever was happening, to never question it, to smile and be cool around the celebrities. He was told to trust the people around him, even when their actions didn't match their words. This is how grooming works. It's not always loud, it's slow, quiet. It happens in private, behind smiles, behind wealth. And by the time you realize what's going on, the damage is already done. He admitted that he didn't even realize it was abuse until years later. That's something many survivors share: the confusion, the guilt, and the pain of understanding it all too late. And by then, it's not just emotional scars, it's mental health, identity, trust, all shaken. For years, Diddy's son stayed silent, out of fear, out of shame, out of love for a father who should have protected him. But now he's stepping forward, not just for himself, but for other victims who don't have the strength to speak yet. He's one of the few who made it through the system and found the courage to tell his story. And in doing so, he's exposing how easily children in power circles can be groomed, while the world looks the other. The celebrities involved, allegations, and hidden names. This story takes a much darker and more complex turn when you start to examine who else might have been involved. It's not just about Diddy anymore. It's not even just about the parties. What's surfacing now paints a picture of a much broader network of high-powered individuals, celebrities, influencers, and industry moguls who were either complicit or actively participating in disturbing behavior behind closed doors. Diddy's son, in his emotional confession, didn't name specific names, and honestly, who could blame him? The legal risks alone are staggering, but what he did reveal was enough to send chills down anyone's spine. He confirmed that A-list celebrities were present at the private gatherings he was forced to attend as a minor. Not only that, they interacted with him directly and not in harmless ways. He described behavior that made him feel deeply uncomfortable, unsafe, and violated. That alone would have been shocking, but then came the leaked reports and alleged flash drives seized by federal investigators. These drives, reportedly handed over by individuals close to Diddy's late ex Kim Porter, are said to contain hours of footage from his infamous freak-off parties. According to insiders connected to the case, the footage doesn't just confirm the parties were real, it allegedly shows graphic interactions between powerful public figures and people who, in many cases, appeared either heavily intoxicated, drugged, or simply unable to give proper consent. And we're not talking about obscure background figures. According to these sources, the people shown in the footage are well-known artists, respected actors, chart-topping musicians, and high-ranking executives. People whose faces you've seen on stages, in movies, on award shows. People who have built careers off of being role models, moguls, and leaders of the culture. So far, the official names haven't been made public, likely because the footage is still being vetted and federal investigators are building airtight cases. But speculation is exploding online. Reddit, Twitter, X, YouTube, and industry blogs are all buzzing with theories, breakdowns, and alleged leaks pointing toward who may be involved. And it's creating a climate of fear in Hollywood, where silence is louder than ever before. But perhaps the most unsettling part? This isn't the first time we've heard these types of claims. Take Orlando Brown, for example. The former Disney Child star has been openly talking about abuse in Hollywood for years, specifically pointing the finger at Diddy and other elite figures. For years, his interviews were dismissed. People labeled him as unstable, crazy, or just another troubled child star. But now, in light of Diddy's son speaking out and the striking similarities in their stories, those old interviews don't seem so far-fetched anymore. They seem like early warnings no one wanted to hear. Orlando claimed there's a system in place, a protected ring of exploitation where children and young talent are groomed, used, and discarded. His claims echoed what others like Jaguar Wright and certain ex-industry insiders have whispered for years, that what happens in Hollywood behind closed doors isn't just shady, it's criminal. And now the world is asking the most important questions yet. How deep does this actually go? Who will be exposed next as the investigation widens? How many more victims are out there still too afraid to speak? And how many high-profile celebrities are staying quiet, praying that their names never surface?
Hey, there's Lori Harvey, you know, Steve Harvey's 22-year-old stepdaughter, in New York looking super happy. And there's Diddy looking, nervous.
So this is fueling the dating rumors that have been going on for a few weeks now.
Yeah, they've been hanging out. Saw her getting out of Diddy's car last week at Nobu, but Diddy's people say she's just a family friend.
Matchy.
They're matching outfits.
Matching outfits?
Matching outfits.
Yeah, but if anything, that dispels dating rumors. Can't see Diddy knowingly doing that. But if this is a real thing...
His father-in-law would be Steve Harvey? That is weird.
Survey says... Oh, we haven't gotten to the weird part yet.
She was previously linked to his oldest son, Justin.
Wait, and hold the phone too.
She dated his son and then she went for daddy.
Does she call him Diddy or Daddy?
Daddy Diddy.
Damn, Diddy.
This is a massive age difference.
That doesn't bother me.
That doesn't bother me at all. I don't care about the age difference. I care about the fact that that's my son's ex.
But we've also seen this where you date a girl and then you date their mom.
Yeah, that happens a lot. In porn. Wouldn't call it dating. Anyway.
It's weird because that's the way you think.
Can you imagine dating your mother's ex-boyfriend?
Well, he'd be like 115.
Ah, a younger man.
Have a fun night, kids. But have her back by 11. Sport?
Harvey lays down the law in a blistering memo that has just been leaked, telling his staff at times not to approach him or even speak to him.
The memo lit up social media, and a lot of people jumped to the conclusion that Steve was on some kind of power trip. So what was really going through his mind? I found out when I talked to Steve exclusively by phone today. So Steve, what happened with the memo?
I wrote it at the beginning of the year because I was trying to find out ways that I could just get more me time for me. I'm a 60-year-old man, and I could not find a way to walk from the stage to my dressing room, to sit in my makeup chair, to walk from my dressing room to the stage, or to just sit and have lunch without somebody just walking in.
Steve Harvey spoke to us exclusively this morning from Chicago, where his talk show is wrapping up its last day of production before its move to LA. In a startling memo to staffers that just leaked, Harvey wrote, quote, "There will be no meetings in my dressing room, no stopping by or popping in, no one. Do not come to my dressing room unless invited. Do not open my dressing room door."
This isn't just about one man. This could become one of the biggest celebrity scandals of the decade, maybe even of our lifetime. And as more evidence is revealed, one thing is becoming crystal clear. Some of the biggest names in the world may have a lot to answer for. So who's next? And who's already lawyering up behind closed doors? Kim Porter's role, leaked drives, and the hidden evidence. This story takes a darker turn when you bring Kim Porter into the picture. Diddy's ex and the mother of 3 of his children. Kim passed away suddenly in 2018, and her death was ruled as pneumonia. But for years, people have believed there was more to it. She was loved, respected, and known for protecting her kids. And according to some insiders, she was also planning to speak out. Here's where things get serious.
Disgraced music mogul Sean Diddy Combs, once known for his lavish lifestyle and living large in his multi-million-dollar mansions, has a new home as he awaits trial in his federal sex trafficking case. Last week, the Bad Boy Founder's defense team unsuccessfully fought to keep the music producer out of federal jail after his arrest. Now his new digs once housed other high-profile inmates, including R. Kelly, Fetty Wap, Sam Bankman-Fried, and Ghislaine Maxwell. Diddy is currently housed at the Metropolitan Detention Center in Brooklyn, New York, a stark difference from the glitz, glamour, and wealth in Hollywood and Star Island in Miami Beach, Florida. But MDC Brooklyn has been described as hell on earth, with horrifying conditions. The facility, which now houses Diddy, opened in the early 90s and is the only federal jail in New York City after the Bureau of Prisons closed its Metropolitan Correctional Center in 2021 after many issues came to light in the wake of Jeffrey Epstein's suicide just 2 years earlier.
If Sean Combs is focusing on things he cannot control, he will have a miserable experience. When he can call home, when he can visit, the living conditions, exercising maybe an hour a day, showering a few hours a week. If he fixates on that, it is going to be miserable, and every day will feel like a year. On the other hand, if he can learn from those who have come before him and master the experience, my business partner served 26 consecutive years for a nonviolent crime, including 8 years in the penitentiary. He never complained. He focused on his family, trying to prove worthy of the love and support of his family. If he can do that, the experience, it won't be easy. I'm not insane. It will be more bearable. The choice is up to him.
And as far as we know right now, he has been kept in solitary confinement, or the SHU right now, and he's been on suicide watch. How different is that experience from being in the general population?
It's much harder. If you like to be around people, you like communication, if you're an extrovert, and then suddenly you were isolated 23 hours a day on total lockdown, I'm not spinning that it's difficult. It will test the strongest mind. But he has to understand others have gone through it and emerged successfully. And what he and his lawyers have to understand is they have like a messaging.
A man named Courtney Burgess recently testified that Kim gave him 11 flash drives before she died, or at least her estate did. On those drives, he says there are 8 videos showing well-known celebrities at private parties doing things no one ever expected. Some of the people in the footage reportedly appear to be under the influence. Others look like they were filmed without their knowledge. And even worse, at least 6 men and 2 women in the videos are believed to be victims, not willing participants. The flash drives were given to a grand jury and are now being reviewed by the FBI. There's also talk of a manuscript Kim was allegedly writing before her death, a tell-all book. Some say it's fake, others say it's real and could explain why she's no longer here. Diddy's children have denied the manuscript's existence, but if it's real, it could blow the entire case wide open.
Happy. Swallowed up. Have you ever been swallowed up? Have you gone through a time of swallowing?
I'm very much in a space right now where I'm not doing...
Right now, no one outside the investigation has seen the footage. But the fear in Hollywood is real, because if the drives are legit, if those videos show what people claim, we're talking about more than just one arrest. We're talking about careers ruined, brands destroyed, and possibly criminal charges for more than just Diddy. Why no one spoke up? NDAs, threats, and the culture of fear. You might be wondering, how did all of this go on for so long without anyone speaking up? The answer? Fear. Power, silence. In Hollywood, silence is often bought or forced. Victims are made to sign NDAs or non-disclosure agreements. If they break them, they risk being sued, blackballed, or worse. Some are offered money to stay quiet. Others are simply threatened into silence. Diddy's son said it himself. He was scared to speak, scared no one would believe him, and scared of what might happen to his family if he told the truth, and he's not the only one.
Joy Dickerson-Neal alleges Diddy raped her in 1991, also in New York. Echoing what prosecutors would write in a federal indictment against Diddy, Dickerson-Neal alleges Diddy recorded this sexual assault. Her lawsuit also argues that she's the victim of revenge porn, as Diddy showed this recording to multiple people without her consent. All three of these civil lawsuits were filed last November under the New York Survivors Act. And so too was a bombshell civil suit filed by Cassandra Ventura, Diddy's ex-girlfriend, who's also known as the singer Cassie. It was with Cassie's lawsuit that we first heard in-depth accusations about Diddy's alleged illegal activity. To start, there's the gun allegation that on at least 2 occasions, Diddy demanded Cassie hold his gun in her purse. The lawsuit goes on to state, quote, "There was no clear reason why Mr. Combs required her to hold his guns, except to reinforce to his young girlfriend that he was violent, powerful, and dangerous." Beyond the gun allegations, Cassie put forth some other major accusations in her 35-page lawsuit. She says Diddy beat her, sometimes so severely that she had to hide out in hotels for days at a time, waiting for the bruises to heal. Then there's the allegation that Diddy got jealous when Cassie began flirting with rapper Kid Cudi in 2011. Cassie says that in 2012, Diddy told her that he was going to blow up Kid Cudi's car and that he wanted to ensure that Kid Cudi was home with his friends when it happened. Around that time, Kid Cudi's car exploded in his driveway. The allegations brought forth in Cassie's lawsuit were shocking, and so too were the accusations brought months later in yet another civil suit filed by Rodney Jones, also known as the producer Lil Rod. He began working with Diddy in 2022 on the Love album, and soon, he alleges, the abuse began. Lil Rod accuses Diddy of sexual assault, writing he was, quote, "the victim of constant, unsolicited, and unauthorized groping and touching of his anus by Mr. Combs." He also alleges Diddy and his team were grooming Lil Rod to engage in gay sex. Lil Rod further alleges that Diddy forced him to have sex with prostitutes and even drugged Lil Rod to get him to comply. On top of these sexual assault allegations, Lil Rod's lawsuit also alleges that Diddy ran a gun and drug trafficking scheme.
It's a pattern we've seen before. Powerful people create a system where victims are isolated and enablers are rewarded. Everyone plays a role, and breaking free feels impossible, but now that silence is being broken. Diddy's son is challenging everything. The NDAs, the threats, the fake smiles. His story is showing people that it's possible to speak up, even when the system tells you not to. And maybe, just maybe, his voice will help others find their own, because the truth can only stay buried for so long. The industry's reckoning. Is this the beginning of real change? Right now, Hollywood is tense. The music industry is whispering, and the people who once seemed invincible are suddenly very, very quiet. The entertainment world is holding its breath, with Diddy under federal investigation, explosive evidence in the form of flash drives being reviewed by the FBI, and multiple survivors speaking out, including his own son. The industry is facing a moment it can no longer ignore. People are asking the questions that should have been asked years ago. How deep does this go? go? Who knew and said nothing? And how many more victims are still too afraid to speak? According to several reports, this is just the beginning. Sources say more celebrities are now being looked into by investigators. While no official charges have been made, big names like Ashton Kutcher, Usher, and Justin Bieber are rumored to be part of the expanding investigation, not necessarily as abusers, but as possible witnesses, or people who were simply present during questionable events. These aren't small-time names. These are massive global figures with influence, fan bases, and millions of dollars backing them. So the fact that they're even on the radar shows just how wide the web of this investigation could stretch. Until recently, these kinds of rumors would have been brushed off. People would say it was just gossip, that it would blow over. But now, the climate has changed. The public is more alert, social media is relentless, and fans are no longer afraid to ask the hard questions about the people they once worshipped. And what sparked this massive shift? A young man, Diddy's own son, sitting in front of a camera, eyes full of pain, saying the words, "I couldn't say no." His bravery didn't just expose a personal truth, it cracked open a wall that had stood for decades. But now the silence is breaking. We're watching the early stages of something that could reshape the entire entertainment industry. Contracts may be broken, deals may fall apart, legacies may be erased, and finally, after years of cover-ups and NDAs, we might see real accountability, because one by one, the survivors are speaking, and every story told is another crack in the system. The question now isn't if change is coming, it's who will fall when it does. This isn't just about Diddy, it's about years of secrets, silence, and pain finally being exposed. It's about a system built to protect the powerful, now being challenged by those who were once silenced. So what do you think? Are we finally seeing the truth behind the celebrity masks? Or is this just the beginning? Drop your thoughts in the comments and let's talk about it. Share this video with someone who needs to see it, and don't forget to subscribe, because part 2 is coming and we're diving even deeper. The truth is no longer hiding and the world is watching.